My father grew up in Antwerp before the war. He came back to Belgium and he established a business and found my mother in Israel and brought her back. There was no Chabad in Belgium, so my parents were kind of pioneers. We were all born in Belgium, all 5 of us. The community there is a very intimate community, religious people, non-religious people, different backgrounds, because the community was so small, we all got along.
I grew up in a community in northwest London. Both my parents were from Europe. My mother was from France, my father was from Germany. Thank God, survived the war, they'd come to England. I grew up in that community surrounded by Jews who had gone through a lot for their Jewishness. My parents became pillars of the community. My father was a businessman. He had built a jewelry business from scratch. He became a big, what we call a Baal Tzedakah, someone who gave a lot of tzedakah. But he didn't just give tzedakah, he helped people. He found jobs for people. He also helped people raise money for other institutions. So our home became that kind of home where it was a home that always had guests, always feeding people who needed to be fed. It was just a home of chesed, of kindness. And I grew up in such a home, and I said to myself, I want to be like them.
My classmate, who was my best friend, introduced me to her brother, Nechemia, at her wedding.
My sister Hadassah was on my case for a while, saying, Nechemia, you got to meet my friend Masha. That was it, we met.
Nechemia proposed.
A couple of months later, we got married and we settled in New York.
The Rebbe's vision was to bring Mashiach, and we wanted to share in his vision and be part of that mission, to make the world a better place.
The Rebbe had given us a special training, and that special training was to be shluchim, which means to settle in a community and devote yourself entirely. This is now your home, this is where you stay.
Also das ist der Tafkide של כל אחד ויחס מבני ישראל auf anzünden der Lanternes von die Jiden, was gefunden sich bis wie Wasser. A viele die, was sie sein in der Nähe von der Wüste, a viele die, was sie sein in der Nähe von Jam. Und das bedarke nehmen und bedarke folgen.
This was a privilege. Teaching, to mentoring, to strengthening Jewish identity, unconditional love for a fellow Jew. It's a life calling, really. Initially, my father wasn't that happy about it. My father very much wanted me to come into the business. I remember saying to my father, I said, Dad, you're in the diamond business. I'm also in the diamond business. I deal with Jewish diamonds. And when my father heard that, he said, Nechemia, okay, go for it. I had heard of Rochester because our cousins, Karen and Michael Dubkowski, had settled here. I had come here one Sukkot with my friends to do a Chabad Sukkah-mobile. And then the Rebbe chose Rochester, so summer of 1981, we came. As we were unloading the moving truck, I saw a couple of young people across the street. I went over to say hi. It turned out that these were 3 brothers. They were Iranian Jewish students. And the next night, they were our first Shabbos guests. So we got to work right away.
At the time, my main connection was with the universities, University of Rochester. Students used to walk half an hour to our basement apartment, and we just packed it up with sometimes 25 students, and they loved it.
Shabbos was very much a focus of our campus activities, to help them experience their Jewishness. We just had to come up with all these gimmicks to get the attention of the students. We had a Clint Eastwood poster, and the caption was, "Go ahead, make my Shabbos."
We bought a house, but we lived in that house for 25 years. Sometimes we stuffed 60 students in there. We had to move the couches out every week to make room for tables. They wanted to see what a Jewish family is like, and they just flocked to us.
We showed them really the happy side of Judaism, the joy, not just the oi.
And as they left the university, Rochester, they established their own homes built on our model, because this is what they knew, this is what they saw, this is what they wanted.
Whatever we did for the entire community. One of our first big things was a concert. We did Hanukkah. It was that first Hanukkah, and we had Uncle Moshe and the Mitzvah Men, and we did it at the JCC, and it was an unbelievably huge success.
We had a standing crowd only, because there was no room. There were 600 people.
Another thing that we did was we went to hospitals every Friday, which we do to this day. Another thing we did, which is still a big hit, is the Model Matzah Bakery. Another thing that we started way back then was the public menorah lighting downtown. Still doing it to this day.
The Rochester community is a very special community. We couldn't do it without them. Chabad continues to grow in Rochester, thank God.
We brought the Mochkins here. They opened our first center in Brighton.
Our children now have their own Chabad houses.
Gave them the campus, it's all theirs, and they've done a phenomenal job. Then came Rishi and Yitzi to Pittsford. And then a few years later, we brought Moshe and Chai. We realized that there's another demographic that needs some growth, and that is the young Jewish professional crowd. Then came Chabad at RIT. Not only am I and my wife here for life, but now we're bringing our children. What greater investment can you make into a community than your own children?
We are extremely proud knowing that the Rebbe's work is continuing in Rochester.
Looking at the 36 years, thank God we've come a long way. At our first Seder, 1982 was our first Pesach, we had probably about 20 students at our Seder. 2017, hundreds upon hundreds of people were at Chabad Seders this year. A very good way with which we can measure the impact that Chabad has had on the community is the fact when you go to a Chabad event, you will find Jews from every segment of the community. And I think this really speaks to the universal appeal that Chabad has.
The way we cherish and value our brothers and sisters.
Ahavat Yisrael, unconditional love.